Welcome, 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 everybody. Happy first Wednesday of the month. And welcome officially to autumn. Doesn't it just, that smell in the air make you feel so delicious? And look, I pulled out one of my new jackets, fall fashion. That's really where I find my way. Summer, I'm like, I'm hot and sweaty in my armpits. Let's give people a couple more minutes to arrive. You are going to absolutely love this discussion today. I don't know how our producer Elizabeth did it, but joining us on the virtual couch is, I'm not going to tell you, you're just going to have to wait. Let's give people another couple of minutes to fully find their way here. Today we are discussing unlearning power. Take a minute to read our community guidelines. They are a really great reminder of the space that we are creating in community here. I had the most amazing discussion on Saturday with somebody who says that they curl up and watch the recording of this on the couch with their popcorn and their little sake feets under a blanket with their husband. And they really take this conversation and bring it into their relationship, into our family. And that is underpinned by the way that we all hold this community space. So I want to invite you to read those if you didn't read them in the leading up emails, the welcome emails. I don't know, what is that called, Elizabeth? What? Okay. This session will be recorded. As I said, lots of people watch this after the show. Unfortunately, though, you're not going to be in the recording unless you like come up on the virtual stage and you ask a question or something like that. It's mostly going to be our special guest today and me in the recording. Sorry, you can be a panelist in the future, but we are going to be recording and we are going to make sure that we are capturing this so that it can be shared widely. Also, after the show, I invite you to leave us a little bit of feedback in our reflection. You'll receive the survey link in the chat. Let us know, what are you interested in? How are we doing? What do you like about today's episode? What did you wish there was more of? What episodes would you like to see in the future? We really do take that feedback and try to apply it. We try to be customer centric without all the, community extraction, because yes, that did come from the Amazon playbook. Today, as you already see, our amazing interpreters from Pro Bono ASL are here. Amber is here. Vern is here. If you would like to increase the accessibility of whatever you are doing in the world, we cannot stress enough the importance of making sure that you have really great captions. We use a plugin called rev.com, that you have an ASL interpreter partner like Pro Bono ASL. Also, take a moment to sign the petition that is really about protecting rights of all of our disabled community members, but particularly, I love this one, standing with the deaf community. Hey, we've got some upcoming live workshops that you should check out. Look at this dream team. We're talking about Ableism 101, global diversity awareness, supporting a neurodiverse workplace. You can find all of these on sojourn.com. If you haven't been on, get on there, make a freemium account, understand how you can use Sojourn to take your company's DEI efforts to the next level. I don't know how we made that super cool scroll there. Okay, am I the CEO of a tech company? Doesn't matter. That's why we have great team members. Super cool, probably Amy, our design unicorn. But if you want to really keep the conversation going well after today's session, check out these great live workshops with our even greater instructors. Let's take a moment to breathe together. Let's take a deep inhale in. Let's take a deep exhale out. Let's do it again. I can feel you need another one. Inhale in. Oh, that's the good stuff. Exhale out. Welcome, beloved. Joining us today to unlearn power on the virtual couch is Charlene SanJenko, an Indigenous storyteller, an impact producer and media visionary Born in the Splatson band of the Shuswap Nation, Charlene believes in creating from a place of collective genius, celebrating cohesive partnerships that bring stories of hope and possibility alive. If you didn't pre-show do a little bit of a deep dive on Charlene, like I did, I cannot encourage you more to do that. Did I nerd out? Yes, I did. Charlene leads a team at reGEN Media, who is introducing a new approach to align progressive creative projects with strong brands with the intent of striking partnerships and investment to propel lasting success for all involved. She holds a solid reputation in the social impact space with a former corporate background in investment services, marketing, and communications and impact production, or how we say that she knows how to navigate all the things corporate-y, but then she saved herself and started her own organization. We just made that bio into one sentence. Charlene, welcome to the, oh, okay, I'm getting a sign that I'm supposed to introduce myself too. It's about me. You really get, hi, my name is Lindsey T.H. Jackson. I serve in the role of CEO at LTHJ Global in Sojourn. I'm the founder. I'm a social scientist, researcher, author, poet, and speaker. Thank you all for joining us. Blah, blah, blah. Done with me. Charlene, how did we even get you here today? Why? I feel what? Thank you for being here. How are you?
Thank you so much for the invitation. What a pleasure. And I'm cozied up on your virtual couch. Faith brought me here, to be honest. Yeah, walking in, saying yes, going where I'm led, and a conversation about unlearning power and what I might personally unlearn in this conversation today. That's all it took. And yeah, so I'm just really grateful to be here.
This is Lindsey. Charlene, where can we even begin? I'd love to just open it up by talking about the birth of reGEN Media. As we read, you came from this corporate career. I'm imagining like Charlene stuffed in like business suits and using her business voice and using business language in emails. And then you become the creative producer, director, manifesting all of these partnerships. What was that journey like?
Yeah, this is Charlene and Lindsey. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely loved my corporate career.
Ooh,
I loved working in the investment services industry, and I learned so much. And my soul was starving for more. So I took the very best of what I learned and set out to redefine for myself how I wanted to experience power and possibility and potential in terms of human expansion in the rest of my life. I didn't know what that even looked like when I was 30 years old. But I formed a social impact organization called Powerhouse at that time. And it was a time where we didn't actually throw around words like social impact and social innovation and inclusive innovation. So many folks thought that I was starting a nonprofit, but really I wanted to work differently and lead differently and lead from a soul place. And so that was where it began, foundational roots in 2000. And my first organization, Powerhouse, is actually celebrating her 10-year anniversary this week. So I'm so grateful to be here and have a conversation about power, because why was my company called Powerhouse? Power House, human expansion realized for her. And now with reGEN, so important. What we see every day influences what we believe, and the stories we're consuming are our greatest influence to what we really believe power is and how we interact with each other. So I'd like to be on the front end of that, on the leading edge of that. And what can I do to be of service, like you said, to storytellers who are looking to return to the sacred art of storytelling in our search of unlearning and remembering really truly what power is to this species.
Well, this is Lindsey. Let's double click on that word, because I think when we hear the word power, I find that people either default to two places. One, the first thing is they start thinking about all the ways that they are disempowered, right? Their only analysis of power is I don't have any, or I don't have any in comparison to. Or I think there's been a huge social media led language or movement around empowerment. You deserve empowerment, and predominantly in spaces built for women, spaces built for historically white women. And then we keep, like any social movement, trying to extend like and. So what is power?
I think I actually have always been fascinated by the term power. And I think for me, power and possibility and potential are all very, very intertwined. I think, unfortunately, the story's been written and power has gotten defined differently in the last 100 years. And we are now, through these amazing conversations and actions that we're taking the time to unlearn, to relearn really what power is. For me, I think there's a place, where we're born from that place of craving why we're here, why we have arrived. I call it our soul print. We kind of get born into the world and there's a soul print. And in our relationships with each other, we are continually exploring the experience of that soul print in our lives. It's this constant faith walk of how might we step into what's possible, more of what's possible, more of what our potential is. And yes, there's an element of feeling powerful to be able to do that, owning our power to be able to do that. And I think returning to what that really truly is, not power over, but power with source, power with spirit, power with you, power with my ancestors, power with all that's possible. So I'm fascinated by the word, the conversation, the opportunity to remember what we're being asked to remember at this time.
This is Lindsey. As you describe that, Charlene, I think what's coming up for me is I hear you saying power is not just what is given to you. It's not an externalized, it's not for me or society to ascribe to you, right? You are either powerful or you are denied power. I hear you talking about something that is innate, that is, it almost reminds me of in Spanish, like tele, right? The interconnectedness between all things. In quantum theory, we might talk about string theory, right? A way that things across time and space can be interconnected, or polarity. Is that it?
Yeah, I do believe like that's the thread that I've been pulling on for so many years. One of my colleagues and close friends, Catherine Eaton, who is a filmmaker and a director, she has a practice called collective genius, and
Hmm.
it's really kind of poking into the understanding that we're all born with collective genius inside of us, mastery. And as we create space to work with one another and really hold space for that genius to show up. I see you. I see all of you. I see all of your power and potential. That's when some really exciting things can start to transpire. We've seen it, we've experienced it with ballets and operas and concerts and sports teams.
Hmm.
It's like
Hmm.
we've seen it, and now we're being asked to integrate it. What if more is possible? I think it's a lesson in holding my individuality and my sovereignty, and understanding that it's only with you in your greatest gifts that will rise up to the next level of what's possible.
This is Lindsey. It's reminding me of when we teach the Enneagram with companies, we talk about how at the point of 9, at the top of that 9-pointed star, the lesson about love is I am loved as I am loving you, right? That there is no to truly love oneself is to truly love another. To truly love another is to truly love oneself. It is interconnectedness. As you share, though, I'm really in my own life, and maybe you, as a founder, CEO of your own organization as well, can relate to this. For lack of a better phrase, it's really scary as shit to stand in your power, right? Especially something that comes from here, like in the solar plexus, right? Because it's much easier, I think, to lean on the power that somebody has externally ascribed to you. Like, oh, you're rich. Oh, you're wealthy. Oh, you're beautiful. Oh, right. But that core knowing, my power cannot be taken from me by you. My power is not bestowed upon me by you. It is core, it is essential. It's really scary, Charlene. Have you experienced that? It's like it reminds me of Marianne Williamson, right? In her uh, speech at Nelson Mandela's inauguration, right? Who am I to be great? Who are you not to be?
Absolutely. Yeah, it it is it's scary. It's Charlene, and you're absolutely right. It's scary as anything. And what if
Mm.
that is actually the whole experience of life and why we were put here in the first place? If we really are here as human beings for this lifetime, which is a very short time in the big scheme of things, and our goal is the fullest experience that is possible, then I would imagine that our compass would be, if my goal is expansion and the fullest experience possible in this lifetime, my compass would be scary, growth, expansion, faith walk, comfort zone, mediocrity, lowest common denominator. Now, where does the conversation of power play into all of that? I want to definitely say that there is a difference between extractive power, which unfortunately in the last 100 years has been taught. Now, are we brave enough as change makers, visionaries, leaders, founders, CEOs to have the conversation about regenerative power? The power in me sees the power and greatness in you. And I am trusting that our greatest gifts can actually weave together in the way that they were meant to. We're no different than any other species, are interconnected gifts. So again, I think some of what's happening around us right now, the perceived challenges that are very real in our lives, are they happening to us or are they happening for us as a species? I don't know, but I know what I believe, because at the bottom of it all, the only thing we have is how we are in relationship to each other while we're here for this lifetime.
This is Lindsey. Somebody on the call is hearing this, is listening, and they're going, yeah, well, that's super fucking easy for you, Charlene and Lindsey, right? Like, your founders, your CEOs, you have your own company. Like, I'm sure you feel power. I have been extracted of my power. I have been ripped and torn, and my soul is weary. What you're offering to them?
I see you. I hear you. I deeply understand you. And my soul is also weary. We have been born at a really interesting time in history, a really interesting time. And we have an opportunity to start doing things differently, to really remember what we've always known about who we are as human beings. One of my Indigenous teachers, his name is reGEN. He is my mentor, my teacher, my friend, and he often reminds me two really important things that I'd love to share, because they relate to this conversation. One is when my soul feels weary, he says, Charlene, you have to remember that we've really only been on this trajectory that you're so frustrated with for about the past 100 years. This is not who we are. So you are an adult at this time. You're an adult. You're a parent. You're a leader. You need to step into your power to shift the trajectory back to what we know it could be and should be. And then he typically follows that up with, we can heal ourselves and our families in 3 generations if we keep it a priority. It's not easy work to do, friends, but it's important work, and it's fulfilling work. And that is the work we're doing. Call it whatever you want. That's what I call it.
Sis Lindsey, I'm cracking up because my mom is on the call, and we're always joking like, shit, ancestors, why do we get to be the ones to disrupt the generational patterns? Give it to the other aunt, give it to the other cousin. Like, I just wanted to sit on the couch and watch, Schitt's Creek for the 4th time through. Okay. Yeah, but it is that reminder, when we're so in it, it feels as though it can be a lost cause. It's too overwhelming. It's too daunting. But that reminder that, and you can hear some version of this in pretty much every philosophical text that then is tied to a religion. But for right now, the Christian context comes to mind, right? Like, my time is not your time. And this idea that because we are just a blink of an eye in an entire existence, that if you didn't save it, if you didn't solve it, if you weren't the savior, that somehow the work that you're doing to keep momentum going is not as important and as useful.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I feel like um our whole world as we know it has turned upside down in the past few years,
Hmm.
um for a purpose, for a reason. And I think as a poet, you might relate to this. Um, Going into the pandemic when I didn't actually understand what was happening yet, I was in the middle of writing a one-woman show called
Same,
Fe
same.
called
You go first.
Feed the Fire.
Mm,
Feed the Fire. And the reason why I was working on that show was to explore, using the tool of creative expression, my relationship and the relationship between fear and faith. I wanted to play into, I knew something was coming up, that I was going to need to be very, very brave. I couldn't quite describe it, but it was palpable for me. And so I
mm,
started to work on this show. And the only thing I can compare what I learned and how that went, and I'm happy to share the show, is I horseback ride up here and on the upper side of Turtle Island, and I have a relationship with an 1,100-pound horse. And when I started riding, I was very fearful because I had not ridden since I was 12 years old. And yet as I was with that fear, I could feel myself and my faith building and growing. But it was in the presence of that fear, in partnership with another, in partnership. It is and was. I mean, it's an incredible experience that I'm having. Um, there's something about relationships and in relation that we're being asked to have a look at, as well as the relationship between faith and fear and the purpose of that. And that's what I really wanted to explore in that show. But now I'm curious about your show.
This is Lindsey. I'm just hanging on your every word. I was working on a one-woman show called Enlightened AF, and it was all about bringing together or weaving together these monologues of these experiences of these women who were stepping into their power. What in the world were we living a double life in two different spaces? This everybody who's on the call, I'm sure you captured this, Charlene, this idea of within relationship, and as we heal wounds within relationships, as we practice healing out loud in public, which is reminding me of our conversation last month with Joel Ferris, right? Where he said, leadership, what is going to be required of us moving forward is that we are prepared to heal publicly, right? That is where true source of power resides. Because also, as you're saying that, it's really allows us to think about the ways that power is all about relationship to fear, right? I'm either fearing that I don't have power, I'm fearful that I have too much power, I'm fearful about how I might lose my power, right? Like it is an exploration of just, right, those two basic emotions, fear and love, fear and
Mhm.
love. And so to in my own life, I'm just relating to this, that in the ways that I've been on my own personal journey of trying to heal parts of myself that need to be healed so that I might live more fully, trying to heal generational wounds that are handed down like collard green recipes to Black women in our society, right? Like, as I do that, as I like peel back each layer, I do feel that like power in my gut. And that listening to that gut knowledge, right? And we can go super nerdy and talk about the relationship between the back of the brain and the vagus nerve and blah, blah, blah. But listening to that knowledge as it comes from there, that inner guide. Some people call it, you know, feeling the sense that God does reside within you. There is no separateness. That is the power that we are talking about. Yes?
Yeah. Yeah, you're so on it. I would love to just go here for a moment, and I'd like to suggest that we set the word power aside for a second and replace it with the word wholeness. As an Indigenous woman trying to communicate in an English language that is not my native tongue, we also have to understand, and so grateful for being able to communicate through speaking and through signing and through communicating. However, we're actually restricted right now by the words I'm saying and your interpretation of those words. So I'm going to ask you for a moment to just close your eyes if you'd like, but think about a vision, a visual that to you represents wholeness. Wholeness. The feeling of wholeness, absolute perfection, greatness, absolute fulfillment realized, potential realized. And I think what you're describing, Lindsey, is in this journey of our lifetime, we are starting to understand that it's a return to wholeness. It is a healing step by step that we're brave enough to put our focus on and our attention on to take us back to the place of wholeness. It is a return to our spirit. It is a return to spirit. It is pulling back and integrating all those fractured bits. And that's why you feel that gut power, because your soul, your whatever you believe, God, source, spirit, creator, is like, thank you for taking another step back to your whole and complete self. That is really what we're talking about in this conversation. And whatever that picture is for you, just hold on to that. Hold on to that wholeness picture. Sometimes for me, it's a picture of a newborn little person, a new human, absolutely perfect, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. This is Lindsey. I love that because I imagine, I'm not sure, but I imagine the majority of people listening right now, engaging right now. Thank you for letting me choose a different word there. Didn't think like, I want to go and take over some territory, or right, like, I want to go trade on the stock market and ring the, I don't know. If you did, that's okay too, because that was your source image and I might be naming my bias. Charlene, I just want to weave in, how does this relate to storytelling? Why at reGEN Media has it been so important to do this analysis of wholeness as it pertains to the stories that get told, the stories that don't get told and often get pushed aside.
Yeah. Yeah, I think in what I call the third act of my career, my professional life, really leaning into regenerative media and storytelling as a return to my roots as an Indigenous storyteller. But scientifically speaking, and there's 11 million receptor sites in our bodies, and 10 million of those are related to our vision, to our sight. So as a change maker who's been fascinated with social change and social impact for the better part of 2 decades, I knew that being where I could be responsible for people seeing more different interpretations of what was possible. So again, it's as simple as, what are the stories we're telling? What messages are they providing? What behaviors are they shaping? And a story is either going to bring you up or going to bring you down. It's going to bring you closer to your spirit and remembering who you really are, or further away from it. And beyond entertainment, but not void of it, I think the world is ready for stories that truly can impact us and maybe shake us to our core. Maybe they need to. But we'll remember. I think we're awake now. I think we're awake now. And so we have an
This is
opportunity.
we're so awake that we have people who are deeply invested in trying to put us to sleep, right? That is the very definition of being anti-woke, right? It is being anti-awake. And it's so explicit that it's delicious, right? Like, please go back to sleep. Go back to sleep, darling. In preparing for meeting with you today, I was trying to just think about, do I even have, just at the front of my consciousness, many stories that depict an Indigenous woman? Right. And then I asked my children, and like, is Pocahontas all we really get? Like, what is up with the storytelling that we have very little? How can reGEN media help to shift awareness like that? Let's tell these stories. Let's put those storytellers out in front.
Yeah, absolutely. And the good news is it is happening. It is starting to happen. People are curious. People are wondering. Unfortunately, it took some really harsh realities in both Canada and the US to have people be a little more curious about our histories and how Indigenous people fit into that history. But I know, having just gone through this process with my own short film, there is an openness to wanting to like learn more about our culture. There is actually an attraction. There's a magnetism, because I believe that we are one of the cultures that has actually been able to maintain a connection to spirit and a connection to our ancestors. We've had to. We've had to through it all. One of the cultures, not the only. So reGEN is doing everything that we can in terms of creating a healthier process to work with filmmakers, to finance their films, to help them bring them to market, to help them be marketed and showed to the world. But it's a very different approach. We're not trying to make change in an old broken system. That's just not where I want to play. We're trying to make change in a new system that's, fertile ground that we're walking into.
There's your shirt of the day, folks. I'm not interested in making change in an old broken system. Dazzle that on a shirt and a coffee cup. Oh, yes. Charlene, let's open it up to some Q&A. I'm getting a message that I've been hogging you all for myself, which I'm okay with. It's my name on the, no, just joking. Who has I've got a question here from Martha Quigg, who is asking, what are some tips on living unapologetically in full wholeness, power? Martha, feel free to open up your mic there. Is the question on what might that look like in Martha's life, or how do I get to there, or both? Go ahead, Martha. Martha says no. Yes. So I think it's both of those. Charlene, feel free to speak to those.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I can only speak, speak from my personal experience, Martha, but it always starts with getting quiet, getting quiet and listening, reconnecting with your ancestors, reconnecting with the lineage that you're from, 7 generations before you and 7 generations yet to come. I just have to acknowledge that, and I feel more powerful immediately. I am just one individual in a long line of very powerful people. And so what might I be doing in this lifetime to carry on that lineage? The other piece I would say is, once I've gotten quiet and I'm listening to what's meant to come through for me right now, then I definitely surround myself with relationships of others that are in the same type of conversations. How might we be more powerful? And it's so important to have these types of conversations. Thank you, Lindsey. It's only by deliberate weaving that we can feel more powerful. That's in human form. That's what we've been invited to do. How can we feel more powerful? And then finally, the us. What is our responsibility in this lifetime? How are we and the collective us really shifting the trajectory, what's being asked of us? And I just kind of go through that me, we, us. I do that multiple times. It's kind of what grounds me and anchors me when I feel a bit off kilter.
This is Lindsey. I'm totally nerding out. I don't know. For those who have been watching this show for many times, our LTHJ global clients, if you just heard Charlene mirror back our I, we, us model of liberatory work, and you're not nerding out like I am, then wow. Okay, stop. What other questions do we have? Gail Bensler says, how do we give ourselves the power, the wholeness? Oh, no, is that, and to live unapologetically and authentically in a world that trades in sound bites and being quote unquote surface. Gail, feel free to open up your mic. But I think I understand the question is, how do we give or maybe even maintain our power and our wholeness in a world that trades in sound bites and is, surface or even performative?
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it, Lindsey, that, performative, I think is where I was going, but I just couldn't, my brain just couldn't wrap around the word. It just seems, Charlene, that what you're saying is so powerful. And for me, wondering, like Lindsey said, how do we really take that power and use it in a world that just doesn't value anything other than the minimal?
Mm,
Mm.
mm.
Yeah, I mean it's a great question. I remember, yeah, early on in my career with Powerhouse, I used to ask myself, who are we celebrating? Who really are we celebrating? And I think that's kind of where your question might be coming from, Gail, is um that it's a bit of a line in the sand moment for us. And when I feel frustrated or tired with performative measures and what's going on around me, I try to remember that I'm part of that line in the sand moment. There, we're not going on in this way. We're redefining and we're taking a new step forward. Um, yeah, I don't know if that's helpful, but I think just really looking at where those measures and where where that's coming from, and just using some strong filters, before you let a lot of that absorb in.
This is Lindsey. Charlene, you're reminding me of a game that we used to play growing up in Pittsburgh called Red Rover, send someone over. And if you imagine that as an image, I think that is the we and us that we're talking about. I don't know if anybody remembers this game, or how you would play is you would start with an even amount of kids on both sides, all holding hands. And then you would call somebody and they had to try to run and break the hands. And if they didn't break the hands, they had to join that line until eventually there might be 50 kids on this side and only one left on that side. And that seems to be, as we think about liberation work as a constant collective joining and shift that swells, the more we hold hands on this side of the line and let people try to run at it and break this side of the line, but then we midwife them on their own journey of healing, on their own journey of finding their wholeness. And then they keep joining this side of the line, right? It's much harder for anybody from that side of the line to break through that swell anymore, until eventually they also just get enveloped in the big line on this side. I love this question from Sherry Lynn. Sherry Lynn asked, it can be hard to consider my ancestors as a voice of guidance, given that they caused harm.
Mm.
How do you
Yeah,
do that work, Charlene?
hurt people hurt people.
Mm.
And I don't have solutions for how we feel about ancestors. I think my guidance says go back further. Go back further in that lineage. And forgiveness is not an easy thing, but it is part of the work. And yeah, the same piece comes up for me when I'm thinking about the Red Rover game, and how that relates to this question of ancestors, and some pain there. Is we're living at a time where we keep expecting broken leaders to make better decisions.
Mm.
And yeah, there was broken people in that lineage for sure. But we have the opportunity and actually the responsibility. It's like, you know what, it stops here. We are bridging for our families, for our future. And I can hold the past. It's painful because I have a responsibility to my ancestors in the future. And that's how I have to hold it sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah. This is Lindsey. That's a whole nother episode, you two. That's a whole nother episode. Yeah. It reminds me, is it an Irish saying that translates something as you're always a teacher, either as a lesson or a warning? Yeah.
Mhm.
Charlene, as we prepare to leave this space, this we work that will translate into us work, what's the final thought you'd like to charge us with today?
Hmm. I just so appreciate humans coming together to be with each other and explore a deeper experience of who we are, why we're here, how we can be in relationship differently than maybe we've been taught. And it takes bravery, it takes courage, it takes power. It takes this journey back to wholeness is not for the lighthearted, but I think if you're here in this lifetime, you checked that adventurer change maker box a lot right alongside me. And so I'm grateful to be on this journey with you. And yeah, and please reach out if there's anything that we can be of assistance in this journey.
This is Lindsey. Where's the best way to find you, Charlene?
Thank you for asking. Socially, for sure, I'm probably most active on LinkedIn, but through our websites at powerhouse.com and also reGEN Impact Media. Yeah, I'd love to connect.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for creating and holding this space so alert, so alive, so awake. Hopefully you can feel the tele, right? There's a part of you that's like, I know it's Zoom, but I also feel like we're in the same room together. That's it. That's that wholeness. That's that awakeness. You're transcending time and space. And I think that is something too, from what Charlene said. There's going to be a part of the people that you take this out to speak to, and they're going to be like, that's so woo-woo. That's so insert whatever synonym for that, right? But remember, these are ways of being that predate Western thought and Western civilization. Western thought is so young in comparison to some of the ancestral experiences that Charlene was speaking to today. There's nothing wrong with returning to things that we knew to be far longer before we made up things that served the few and not the many. Go out and serve the many. We love you. We'll see you next month. Bye.
Thank you.